So this seems like this is gonna be one of the worst weeks in Faze Clan's history, potentially, after multiple of these new Faze content creators that kind of just revitalized Faze as a whole, to be honest, like saved Faze from the gutter, because they were in the gutter after multiple crypto scams and allegations from some of the people in the organization. Yes, these boys were able to save it. They were able to bring back the love and popularity that they once had, especially compared to what it was more than a couple years ago. I say this because a lot of them are leaving or have already left. In the past couple days, it's been like rushing news of Jason the Ween, Stable Ronaldo, Lacey, Silky, Your Age. A lot of these people in this new push of the Faze Clan members left, and for in the beginning stages we didn't really know why. A lot of confusion was happening. It was really cryptic. A lot of people thought it was fake or it was just propaganda or something like that, but I think a lot of people knew it was real as soon as Faze Adapt left, and there was a lot of speculation. Some people are like, well, they left because there was like a 20% deal that Faze wanted to strike with the Faze boys and take 20% of some of the revenue. That was one. Some people thought it was because of some drama with some of the leaders in Faze in general, like Faze Banks, and we don't truly know what everything is. But as things came to be and as more news happened, I think we have a pretty good gist of at least some of the components. So one of the big things after the news of a lot of these people leaving, Plaqueboymax, one of the streamers that left Faze a couple months ago, got a lot of heat. I mean, this boy got a lot of heat. People calling him monkey and whatever other racist thing in the world they're gonna call him, because he's a content creator that left a group that people loved, and a lot of them thought it was because of ego. A lot of it thought because he thought they were bigger than the program. And so he got a lot of hate when first leaving Faze. He talked about how that affected him and how, a lot of the reasons as to why he left Faze had to do with things that had nothing to even do with the boys. Some of it was the higher ups asking for him to give them 20K a month for the little house that he was living in the back of the Faze crib. Some of it was because of Faze Banks. He said, well, at least his cousin said, Faze Bank called him and his friends the N-word, and in frustration. And those are just some of the reasons why he felt slighted and felt like he wanted to leave. Inevitably he ended up leaving. But that's not where the drama starts, because this is a lot of drama. So Faze Banks kind of just makes a post about how he has nothing to do with the Faze drama because he left 5 months ago. And while making this tweet, Plaqueboymax puts a sound effect towards the tweet in a negative light, seemingly trying to suggest that, well, no, you were part of the reason why things went bad. That's when everything went to shit, quite honestly. Banks posted a video about how ungrateful the entirety of the Faze boys were and how they all suck, basically. Ian talked about how much money that he had to put into Faze and he got no return, and basically called this one of the worst decisions he's made in his life.
Ever made in my entire life. I gave up my entire adult life to this. I have put myself in millions and millions and millions of dollars in debt. I have never made not one singular dollar outside of my salary via Faze. Not selling it, not buying it, raising money. I've just put myself further and further in debt. I think Faze, to acquire and all the costs for these guys' careers over the last 2 years, I think ballpark 40 million bucks. And I think probably collectively these guys have had to have probably made like 20 million in the last 2 years collectively, I would guess. And not $1 of that 20 million has ever gone back to Faze, never mind me. Even
after that, he makes a follow-up video because one of Plaqueboymax's assistants and cousin talked about some of the things he felt about Faze Banks. After Banks heard this, I think rightfully so. I think if you talk about someone, I think rightfully you have every reason to respond. A lot of people are like, oh, you're 34, you're old man, why are you responding? I think if you talk about someone online, or at least someone close to you talks about someone online, you have the right to respond. Now, like, respond is different than what Faze Banks did. And Faze Banks basically just leaked all of their DMs. And a lot of these DMs were basically just talking about business and helping each other out. And like, Plaqueboymax would ask Banks for advice. And it doesn't really dispute the things that Fatboy Dip says in the video of like, well, he called Max the N-word. That's one of the reasons why he slided. It doesn't mean it's the only reason, but Banks is posting these messages as if like, oh, this disputes everything. Not really. It doesn't really dispute everything. It just shows that like, yeah, he forgave you on the N-word thing, but like, obviously he's gonna say that. To be honest, I think it's a little crazy to be so comfortable with one of your employees. At the end of the day, I know people get mad at stuff like this, but there is a power dynamic. And even if Max says he's okay with the thing, doesn't mean it was right for you to do. Doesn't mean you can come back and talk about how hypocritical he is or how cringe he is. And that's partly what the first part of the video that Banks talked about. The second part is just him like talking shit about all the other boys and saying someone like Lacey says the N-word, someone like Ron says the N-word, and Max didn't have any problems with them saying it. So that was the second part. And like, part of me is like, yes, I understand people get offended by the N-word, and it's understandable, obviously. But then they will be okay with certain people in their life calling them the N-word or saying the N-word, even though they're not black. And I understand why Banks could get confused in that scenario, but it's still, at the end of the day, you're the boss, okay? It's a little different between Lacey saying it and you saying it. So that kind of just happened, and after Faze ends the video, Max responds obviously and says that a lot of the things that Banks is talking about was just manipulation, like throughout their entire friendship or partnership. Max says, like, yeah, Faze Banks kind of just manipulated me while I was vulnerable, while I was depressed. Banks is like, no, you weren't depressed. You weren't, no, I was bullshitting. You're lying, whatever. They're saying they're lying to each other. At the end of the day, I think the bigger picture is you had a bigger power over Max, and you shouldn't have called them the N-word. You shouldn't have said it. You just shouldn't have said it. And it made Max uncomfortable, and he has every right to feel uncomfortable. And like, trying to attack him based on that, and trying to attack everyone based on them not being friends or them saying words that they shouldn't say, and you saying they're all fake. It's like, well, you honestly seem like the fake one, because everyone else seems like they're still friends. Everyone else seems like they're still cool and respect each other. And that's all the Faze, Banks, and Max drama. And later on, the Faze boys that left, a lot of them decided to do a stream addressing some of the things. And they basically talked about nothing, really. They honestly didn't say much. They just said that they're leaving, they're going their own way. Didn't really address a lot of the drama. Instead said, a lot of them talked about how they do all love each other and they all are friends. And they didn't really address Banks, but they're kind of addressing Banks, and Banks saying like, oh, they're all fake towards each other. It seems like they are all friends and they're going to keep on doing content together. And they even said that towards Max, that they care about him and they're friends with him. So, you know, I just think there's a lot of drama, and I'm not necessarily on the side of the corporate at the end of the day. It seems like Faze brought up some people and just are bad business people, because they thought that they could just get away with asking for more percentage or more things later on. But the reality is you have no leverage anymore. this should have been deals that you made in the beginning. If you wanted to take, a percentage off of them, you should have said this in the beginning. All of this could have been done in the beginning, but it just seems like bad business from a big corporation that doesn't know how to handle content creators. At the end of the day, you as a person have every right to leave a situation that you think is wrong, whether because someone called you the other word, whether because someone's bullying you, whether because someone's wants to take more money from you. You have no loyalty to these businesses that are only goal is to take from you. I think all the Faze boys are justified. I think all Max is also justified, and Banks coming on and complaining about this just seems kind of ridiculous. Now again, I understand it. They brought your name in, they accusing N-word accusations onto you. You did kind of admit it, but I do agree that, like, is it that big of a deal when everyone else around you is okay saying it? I see the problems, I see the anger, I get it, but it seems like there's also a lot more drama of, like, Banks talking shit behind Silky's back in a car with Max. It just seems like a lot, and it seems like no one's really on Banks' side in that room of friends. Does it mean Banks is the most evil person in the world? I don't know. I don't care. But I tend to lean more towards the Faze boy side in this drama. What do you guys think? I hope you learned a little bit more about the situation, all the drama and all the bullshit. And see you later.